Hamza.
Yes.
So you do a 24-hour economy briefly, and then we will do Ablekumanot.
For a moment, listening to you. Good morning to you, my colleagues in the studio, and of course to our cherished viewers out. Nana, listening to you, though I was late, for a moment I was confused whether indeed the 24-hour economic policy was part of the agenda for today.
No, it was not. That's what I said.
That notwithstanding, I was excited that once again, as a ruling party, we are given an opportunity to more or less explain the rationale behind the 24-hour economy, because it is an important blueprint, not just for the National Democratic Congress, but we believe, like President Mahama indicated in his launch, for the Republic of Ghana. And the call is on all of us to go beyond the normal partisanship that mostly characterize our policies intended for the benefit of the Republic of Ghana. And so I remember on another platform, I had cause to call on my brother, Miracles, not to color it with the usual politicization, but if they have any legitimate concerns in terms of even credible criticisms that they think that it is proper for them to bring to our attention, it can be done. As a government that is listening, reflective of the personality of His Excellency President Mahama, I think that we are unwilling, or we would resist any attention at invitation to once again make the 24-hour economic blueprint a partisan football. And that is why our doors are open all the way through in terms of our commitment to getting it work. And yes, we are not disputing the fact that some of the ideas contained in the documents are not reflective of policy directions of some of our ministries and departments. But if you listen to us, we've been consistent in terms of the policy. We've argued. The bedrock of that policy has to do with how disintegrated our economic institutions have been over the years. And so as one major objective, it was intended to more or less bring it to the center and integrate the policies and give it that focus so that government institutions, private institutions can interact effectively for us to reap the needed benefits in the sector. Because I'm sure that you have followed over the years, on annual basis or sometimes after 4 or 5 years, we are told that the GDP has grown. But in terms of its reflection in job creation, it has been minimal. It continues to dwindle. Because in the 1990s, anytime the GDP of our country grew, there was a commensurate increment in terms of employment in the region of about 0.7%. Today, even with high rates of GDP growth, commensurate creation of employment opportunities revolves around 0.2%. That tells you that the growth in GDP is not actually reflecting in terms of job opportunities for teeming youth of our country out there. So there's the need for a government that is familiar with these statistics to bring on board policies intended to take advantage of GDP growth. And that is the whole rationale. Again, another important aspect of the policy has to do with the fact that even in opposition, we never said that government was going to be the major implementer of the policy. We're consistent. We said that as part of our responsibilities, we needed to create an enabling environment and provide the needed assistance to the private sector to be able to drive that policy and create that 24-hour economy. And where public institutions are better positioned to implement a 24-hour economy, the government of Ghana, spearheaded by the National Democratic Congress, would ensure that these public institutions are equally given the necessary support to implement same. And it is therefore not surprising that you have heard the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example, the Passports Department, they have started implementing the 24-hour economy. Again, BOST is also preparing the grounds to implement the 24-hour economy. Ghana Publishing Company Limited is already on the 24-hour economy radar. DVLA is doing that. These are public institutions. And that has been our position. Now the objective is how to provide the needed incentives for the private sector that is expected to drive this growth to be able to implement the 24-hour economy so that we can effectively implement our 133 policy. One job, 3 shifts, 3 different people. So the NDC is still committed to that, but we know that we need to give the private sector the needed support to be able to implement that. And in so doing, we are also tailoring it in such a way that it can feed into our export drive.
Right.
So, for example, in the agriculture sector, we are looking at ways of empowering youth who are into agriculture. So, if for nothing at all, we can increase production when it comes to rice and maize and ensure that it contributes to our export basket, and in the long run would create viable jobs for our people. So these are the objectives. These are the plans. And so we have not departed in terms of the promises we made. We have a 4-year mandate, and we have said that we'll begin to see the fruits of the 24-hour economic policy launched by His Excellency President Mahama in about 18 months' time. So be patient and judge us by that promise. So it is not something, I see we are dealing with a president with a track record. This is a president, when he was saddled with challenges in the energy sector, he came with policies then the NPP described as over-ambitious. But at the end of the day, it led to incremental contribution in terms of our energy generation capacity in the Republic of Ghana. He also proposed ESLA, intended to take charge of our financial difficulties as far as the energy sector is concerned. Again, it took the NPP to batter that policy and took it for granted and misused the process of ESLA. This is a president who, once again, when he was confronted with the issue of revenue administration, developed and pushed through the Revenue Administration Act. That eventually led to the establishment of the tax refund account of about 6%. That day, as a government, once again decided to misuse and as a result of that, they decided to pay for all kinds of questionable contracts like SML. When these policies were intended to have an effect directly on the physical space of this country. So we are dealing with a president with a track record, and be rest assured that this one, once again, will be given the needed support. And our invitation to them is to be patient and approach this thing with non-partisan colors.
In 18 months,
and we have learned useful, we have learned useful lessons from the many promises they made to the good people of this country in opposition. Remember the one district, one factory that his boss championed. Remember one district, $1 million, one village, one dam, and the fate of these initiatives that they used to deceive the good people of this country for votes. So if there's a political party that is known for its appetite for deception when it comes to winning political power, I think that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the NPP effectively represent that. And so we are learning useful lessons from that past, and we would not be willing to be tagged in the light of his own boss, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and the new Patriotic Party at large. We would want to be treated differently by the good people of this country, because we still remember the humiliating defeat that the good people of this country subjected them to, largely because of their deceptive politics. So we would learn useful lessons, because we wouldn't want the good people of this country to treat us in the same light.